Welcome to the Total Soccer Show Weekend Review. Liverpool's visit to Man City promised intrigue, and it might be the weekend where the Reds won the league. Clearly, this team is as good as the best under Jurgen Klopp, and they pulled this win off without playing anyone up top. For Man United fans, watching this team still hurts, particularly when Rashford and Antony are thriving, wearing different shirts. Arsenal passed on a chance to close the gap. Alexander Isak was a very prolific chap. Spurs might be good once more, but Leicester, they're bad, and they shipped 4. In Germany, Bayern and Dortmund scored 10 in a wild ride. In Italy, Napoli failed the task they were assigned. In Spain, Luka Modric showed us he still holds the keys to success. And in the United States, we welcome back our good friend, MLS. My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today is your friend of mine, Taylor Rocco. Hello, Taylor.
Hello, Ryan Bailey. I swear your rhyming introductions benefit from your accent, because I don't think I could have pulled off rhyming wild with assigned, but you did it quite well. Nicely done, my friend.
Wild ride aside. It's a half rhyme. Give me partial credit for that, please.
All right, yeah. You know what? I'll give you 3/4 credit, in fact.
Thank you. Well, give me half. Give rhymezone.com a quarter. How's that?
I always do.
Excellent. Very good. Joining us also is Mr. Graham Ruthven. Hello, Graham.
Hello, Ryan. Did you have a good weekend? What is a typical Ryan Bailey weekend? I'm trying to envisage what is a Ryan Bailey weekend. I'm thinking like brunch. You're a brunch person, aren't you? Like I think you like a good brunch, don't you?
He just gets in that car and drives west. That's all it is, man. That Mustang and the open road, come on.
I take no offense that I look like a guy who enjoys a good brunch, by the way. But yes, I do, Graham. Yes, I do. In fact, I had one on Sunday. We went out for brunch the first time in months, actually. I have you know, but I do enjoy it very much. Typical weekend, Graham, to answer your question. Wake up, put Premier League on, be hassled by kids, rinse and repeat. That's about it.
Yeah, I can relate. Yeah.
Actually, since I moved into my new home last year, every single weekend has been painting a wall of some sort or patching a wall of some sort as well. So that's the afternoons too.
The same wall? Just over and over again.
It depends how badly I do it first time.
Ryan's very bad at painting. He has to keep patching the wall.
It's like the Golden Gate Bridge. Eventually, I have to start doing it again. That's basically how it works.
Are we talking about like murals? Like, is there an AFC Wimbledon mural somewhere in your house now, or John Stones mural? Like, there's a door, there's a cupboard that your wife has never been in. You open the door to that cupboard, and there's John Stones mural facing you.
Yeah, it's like in. Oh dear, yeah, the Alan Partridge where he's got the room with all the Alan Partridge stuff in it. I have a John Stones equivalent of that, Graham. Yes, very much so. And the AFC Wimbledon mural I have is the same one I painted at your house when you moved into yours, so it's a replica.
Ah, that makes sense.
It's not the original, it's the replica. Anyway, it is a power trio on the weekend review this weekend. No Joe Lowry, but we will power on, and we've got Major League Soccer coming up very much in this episode too. Before we get there, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show is where you'll find our bonus content, including but not limited to Weekend Review Extra, where all the extra goodness we're going to squeeze in there, including but not limited to Neymar doing things Olympico-wise and showing off to the crowd. That was a fun moment from the weekend. We'll cover that in weekend.
Yeah, I was wrong. I'll hold my hands up on Neymar right now. I think it was Taylor that asked me how many goals will he score for Santos. I said 2, tentatively. He's scored that already and has multiple assists and is now scoring direct from corner kicks. So yeah, he's still good.
Just to flex as well. Not because he wanted to, it's because he felt like it, which is fun. Very fun.
It turns out maybe the party boy wasn't thriving in Saudi Arabia, known for its wild and exorbitant lifestyle. So maybe being back in Brazil is suiting him well. I should note, we did get a message from Joe. I am still slightly concerned because I'm assuming he spent his weekend Clockwork Orange style with his eyes like taped open to watch every single MLS game that happened, because there were, I think, 38 games that happened simultaneously or at various points in the weekend. So hopefully Joe is not suffering MLS overload, at least not yet, since it's week 1.
Yeah, I was suffering on Saturday night. I've got to admit, a 10:30 Eastern start for the Charlotte-Seattle game. Gone midnight when it finished. I've got to get out for brunch tomorrow. Come on, everybody. Come on.
I've got one wall to paint over and over again and brunch to eat.
Exactly. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show for our bonus content, please, and thank you. And as a reminder, you can check us out on YouTube. We're putting all our episodes on there. Link in show notes. Let's get straight to the Premier League action. Oh boy, Man City 0, Liverpool 2. Liverpool extending their lead to 11 points with a pretty comfortable victory here. Mo Salah, Graham, doing Mo Salah things. We'll get to Man City in a minute, but we should heap praise on Liverpool, I think, at this point, who had a bit of a different shape with Szoboszlai and Jones as What were we calling this shape? Like a two false nines? Was it a 4-2-2-2? Was it a 4-2-4? How did we see it
4-2-4.
going?
Yeah, I think it was a 4-2-4 mainly when you had Jones and Szoboszlai pushing forward, and obviously that was working really well where Liverpool were able to go direct. But then also out of possession, it was a 4-4-2. But then they also had they were pulling McAllister into the back four to make it a 5 as well to cover the runs of Kevin De Bruyne, because that is one of the few things we've seen work for Man City recently, is having Kevin De Bruyne pull wide, like he did for the. I'm sure they scored a goal against Real Madrid that way in the Champions League, where De Bruyne pulls wide, the space opens up through the middle, they play through the middle. So Liverpool even had a plan for that happening in this game, and I thought this was a real flex from Liverpool to show that they can play a different way, because for so much of this season they have been this exhilarating attacking juggernaut. But here, as you mentioned, Ryan, the approach was a little bit different. I thought that they were very strong defensively. Van Dijk and Konate were absolutely solid. And obviously their job is made easier by the fact that Erling Haaland isn't even on the bench for this game. He was on the bench against Real Madrid during the week, I presume just to try and spook them, because at no point did he warm up or look ready to come on. In this game, he's not even in the squad, so he's got a serious injury, it seems. But nonetheless, Van Dijk and Konate were excellent. As I mentioned, McAllister and even Curtis Jones coming back into the back five to cover runs. And I thought it was a really intelligent performance by Liverpool, who were very effective in the press. There were moments when they were pressing high. There were also moments where they were very comfortable in the mid-block as well and asking Man City to play through them. I think Man City had a higher share of possession in this game than any opposition team Liverpool have played this season, which is to say, that's a long way of saying this was the lowest possession share that Liverpool have had in a Premier League game this season, which kind of tells you how this match went. But even when they didn't have the ball, I thought Liverpool were really, really comfortable and kind of just won this game in like second or third gear.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of it, right? And that's part of why City are able to have as much possession as they do. When you're 2-0 up inside the first half, I think, or inside the first, 37 minutes, something like that, he says, checking FotMob and now confirming for sure. I think it means that you can sit off a little bit more. But it's crazy to me that City had that much possession, that many creative players theoretically, and still I think their XG was very, very low. So not creating a ton, and I think a lot of that had to do with the absence of Erling Haaland, because it never felt like Liverpool's backline were truly concerned and were truly stretched, and I think that they were able then to set up with some of the shapes Graham's already talked about and really just nullify what City were doing. I've never seen City fullbacks and center backs put their feet on the ball and look around as much as we saw in that game. We saw Pep losing his mind very early and very often with the center backs and their distribution and how tame it was, and it just felt like Liverpool really just kind of nullified so many different things City were trying to throw out, and then themselves executed their game plan phenomenally, including both of their goals. Can I spend 5 minutes talking about the first goal? Because it's incredible.
We're counting on it. That's
okay.
Your thing.
Yeah, please. Well, this is, for people new to the show, we have master set piece theater, which is when a set piece is particularly brilliant or particularly well designed. And for people who haven't seen it, the Liverpool opener is exactly that. It comes from a corner, and you have, I think, capitalizing on the way City defend corners, they have that hybrid zone. They have 6 inside their own 6-yard box with the goalkeeper. They have 3 around the penalty spot defending the 3 Liverpool attackers who are going to make runs, and they have 1 person short. So they have all 10 of their players back defending this corner. What they don't have is anybody on Mohamed Salah, who is at the back post, maybe 12, 15 yards from the end line, wide open. No one's marking him. And it's not just that they're able to play the ball to him. It's that you then have Andy Robertson and Dominic Szoboszlai starting inside the 6-yard box around the goalkeeper. They both then make near-post runs, and Andy Robertson follows behind Szoboszlai, stops, and then backs up into the City defender, but he is making a play on the ball theoretically, but he basically provides the entire screen so that Szoboszlai is now wide open to one-touch the ball back to the top of the box. The original 3 Liverpool runners at the penalty spots have all made their runs in, so now there's just nobody there except for Mohamed Salah. It's so well designed, and what makes it so especially beautiful is that it's not just a really well-designed set piece. It's a really well-designed set piece that is fully capitalizing on exactly how City want to defend, and so you're basically playing into what they presume to be their strength and finding the vulnerability therein. And that, to me, was what made that goal so beautiful. Somebody at Liverpool watched a lot of footage to come up with that one.
I think they also watched Bournemouth from a few weeks ago, because I'm pretty sure Bournemouth scored exactly the same corner kick. Was it Ryan Christie that scored that one? I remember we spoke about it on the show. It was a carbon copy. So not only are Liverpool taking their sporting director, they're now taking their set piece routines. What I loved about that corner kick, Taylor.
Do you think that's what happened? He came and had one diagram, I came up with this while I was at Bournemouth. Do you all want it? And they're like, sure. We'll give it a go.
He opened his bag and he was like, "Oh, this is still in here." Like dossier of set piece routines.
I think it's a big Google Doc, and he just clicked make a copy and just changed Bournemouth to Liverpool. That's what
he's still invited on the Google Doc, yeah. But what I loved about this corner kick routine was how precise it was, Taylor.
Yep.
So was it Ake who, like, it's so tantalisingly close on the edge of the box to him just about getting there, and then it's just about close enough to Ederson for him to make a save, but at no point does a City player actually touch it, and Liverpool make it look so easy when that is not easy at all to pull all that off.
No, definitely. Taylor, let's talk a bit about Man City. Now, you mentioned the centre-back problems. Where were the key issues for City? Because it did seem like obviously midfield was an issue, maybe a lack of creativity that Kevin De Bruyne once brought. He doesn't seem to be quite at the level he has been previously, suffice to say. I mean, having Phil Foden playing an advanced role and being a bit below himself as well. I'm trying to find the positives. I thought Marmoush was all right as sort of that Julian Alvarez kind of player, but otherwise it was a bit of a weekend to forget for City, right?
Yeah. I'll continue the brunch theme and just say, like, I'll have a bit of everything you just said, Ryan, because I think it was a bit of everything you just said. I do think a lot of it, as I've said already, had to do with the lack of Erling Haaland and the lack of maybe multiple vertical threats. I think Marmoush was in there to be that potentially. But when you have then Doku and Savinho out wide, they can maybe attack space, but I don't think they're going to be nearly as threatening to a back line and to any defenders as Erling Haaland operating centrally. But it's not just his lack of size and speed then without Erling Haaland. It's just, as I said, you can't stretch Liverpool at that point. And they were in that 4-2-4 high up. And they basically sat on certain City midfielders. I noticed Szoboszlai especially kind of tracking Gonzalez when he would try to move around to find the ball. And so City routinely didn't have passing options, even when they had numbers back and around the ball. If it went to one player, he immediately knocked it back to a center back. If it went to the center back, he'd knock it to a fullback who would pick their head up. And there just wasn't much there. There weren't a ton of runs. This felt like, I wouldn't go so far as to say it was a full Pep overthink, but I do think they were trying to do some different things. I noticed how often City in the early part of this game weren't really pressing and were kind of trying to block passing lanes, sit off a little bit more, and it felt like an opening chess match where you're moving like just pieces around to see if the other team will overcommit, and I don't think Liverpool did, and I don't think City ever really found a way to kind of wrest control, and even when they had the possession, they weren't able to make much happen with that. So to me, it was a lack of Haaland, a lack of kind of spreading out Liverpool and stretching Liverpool, and then never really finding a way to play through the press in a way that caught Liverpool unprepared.
Yeah, so Pep was asked about the approach after the game. He also said it was like one of City's best performances of the season, which maybe says something about how that's very on brand for Pep. Might say something about how poor they've been recently, but yeah, he was over the top, extremely over the top with his praise of this performance, and then proceeded to like pick holes in what they didn't really do as he wanted in this game. So he said that he wanted City basically to. He was really straight to the point. He wanted wide players at the byline playing cutbacks and runners into the box. So you had Doku and Savinho.
That's a City thing. That's what they do.
Well, it used to be the City thing. No longer. But they wanted to go back to that. They had two wingers, Doku, Savinho. They then obviously didn't have Haaland in the middle, so they wanted Marmoush and Foden to be those runners into the box. Didn't really happen that way. I thought Doku... I mean, Trent Alexander-Arnold probably at full time of this match was quite relieved because he was given a really difficult time by Doku, but not a huge amount of final product from Doku where it felt like he was sort of flipping the ball into the box, and you feel like saying to him, Erling Haaland's not in this team. Like there's nobody to attack that ball into the middle. So it was a flawed system by Man City. This is where I don't really know what the solution is because they don't really seem to have the players to make anything work in the final third at the moment. Marmoush is a second striker. He's not a number 9. You want him running off Haaland. Haaland's injured. Phil Foden's drop-off this season has been remarkable considering he was the best player in the Premier League last year. And then Kevin De Bruyne, I mean, look, he's a Premier League legend. He's one of the best midfielders we've ever seen. He's done at this level. Like, physically in this game was confirmation that he just cannot compete at this level anymore. I mean, there were a couple moments where not only is he struggling to cover ground, which is understandable at 33, it feels like it's affecting his technical execution. There were moments in this game, there's a shot at the end of the first half.
Corner flag shot.
Where he takes it on from outside the box, and I'm like, that's not Kevin De Bruyne. Whoever's in that body is not the same player, because he would never have done that in that way before. And then there was other moments where his touch was really slack. So it just feels like the legs have gone from underneath him. He has played a lot of football over the last 10 years, and I do wonder if that is now catching up with him.
Graham, why don't we just start calling him San Diego's Kevin De Bruyne? And then whenever we talk about him in a Man City context, we can understand the situation. Because I agree with you, and I think that's a fair summary of Kevin De Bruyne. I have to believe it's slightly warmer, slightly more hospitable in San Diego right now. So, Kevin, come on over to Major League Soccer. Yeah. It'll be fine. I also, while we're spotlighting City players that we're not quite sure what to make of, or we're not quite sure why they're having such a drop-off, I do not understand Gvardiol, who is, at this point, at least in this back line, their second most experienced defender. It's Nathan Ake in there, but then it's Kustanov, it's Rico Lewis, and it's Gvardiol. And he is a player that is capable of hitting 30-yard bangers into the top corner and defending lights out, no problem. But then in this game, he is also capable of playing the ball directly to Liverpool multiple times. He gets done up by Salah twice for the second Liverpool goal, and just has such an erratic form. He has to make Pep kind of crazy, because on certain days he is world-class and unplayable. On other days, he looks like he should not be played, which is a different version of unplayable. But you get my point.
Was it Gvardiol, Taylor, or was it another Man City player who they were coming out from the back, Liverpool are setting off in their mid-block, or even deeper than that, actually. And this player's waving all the City players on, don't worry, I've got this. And then he just batters the ball into the back of Ruben Diaz, and Mohamed Salah comes out and Liverpool have a chance.
I believe
was it Gvardiol that did that?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that kind of sums up his performance, I think.
But then he also is ball watching for the ball over the top that Salah runs onto. Then he gets cut really badly when Salah cuts it back and then plays it to Szoboszlai for the second goal. He has a few errant passes. He has one pass that goes straight out of bounds. It just felt like a negative vibes performance. I think when City are up 2-0 when Gvardiol has the ball, he's going to hit a rocket from 60 yards out into the top corner. But when they're losing, it seems like maybe the nerves get the better of him.
Yeah, just very quickly before we move on, I mentioned Mohamed Salah there. I just want to highlight the numbers he's putting up this season. He's got 51 goal contributions in all competitions this season, and it's still February. I think we're witnessing potentially the greatest individual season in Premier League history. He's got 41 goal contributions in the Premier League this season. The record's 44. So I think he's got 12 games of the season left or something around that mark. He's going to demolish that if he stays fit. And the level that he is playing at right now, I'm not sure we've seen that in the Premier League. And it's interesting because he's maybe not quite as involved in the possession structure as he used to be under Jurgen Klopp. He's staying high and wide. He's providing a threat that way by isolating opposition defenders. But the decisions that he is making and the execution that he's showing in the attacking third is ridiculous. He's the best player in the world right now. I don't even think it's actually that close.
And maybe a free agent this summer, which is kind of crazy. Someone needs to give that man a contract. Liverpool now unbeaten in 23 league matches as well, undefeated on the road. 20th league title, second in the Premier League era, looks to be in the bag. Maybe we will say this was the weekend they won it when we look back upon this season. Maybe it got too far away. 20 points ahead of City they are, Taylor. A 29-point swing from the end of last season, where, of course, City finished 9 points ahead of them. So that's quite a difference in that time.
I will continue to toot my own horn, as annoying as it is. I said in November that this was Liverpool's title, and I continue to say it will be Liverpool's title, and I think it's less of a bold claim now, but I'm still going to say it. I'm going to continue on with that.
Was that before or after you said that the drop-off after Jurgen Klopp would be dramatic and Liverpool would struggle to finish in the top four?
After, I believe.
I can dig you out, Taylor, because I made similar noises last summer, so we were both guilty of the same thing.
But really around November, when it just felt like Arsenal are having issues, City do not seem like they are City. Chelsea felt like they were going to be the kind of rival then. Manchester United were doing United things. It just felt like Liverpool had figured things out, and as long as they kept most of their squad healthy, and they have thus far, they were going to be pretty comfortable. They seem like they're going to win this pretty comfortably.
Yeah, it's
done.
It's over now.
Thanks to Taylor Stradamus for getting that one in the bag.
Not a reverse jinx at all.
Yeah, when Salah had already scored 30 goals. Awesome.
Why are you hurting me? Why are you taking this away from me?
I'm just a realist. I'm sorry, Taylor. You did very well.
I don't need your patronizing tone. Get out of here. Take us to break.
Let's go and have a little sit down and a break. When we come back, we'll go around the rest of the Premier League, the rest of the continent, MLS, much more. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to the weekend review. Let's go to the Emirates. I almost said Highbury. That's where my brain was at.
Dude,
Arsenal 0.
I do that every time. I don't know why. I always have a momentary Wait, is it Highbury now? And it was Emirates? I forget. I don't know why that is, but I'm glad we're in good company, Ryan.
It's because I wish we were going to Highbury rather than the Emirates, Taylor. That's
Well,
what it
fair.
was.
Ryan's stuck in the 90s. What's your excuse, Taylor, for that?
Sympathy and loyalty to my co-host.
You just really like marble halls and like statues, which Highbury famously had. Did they have that at the end?
Marble Halls, was he a left back?
It was Marble Hall's Kingsley, I think. Then it would be an Arsenal defender, yes.
Very nice. Arsenal 0, West Ham 1. A huge day for the Gunners to close some ground in that title race, which they did not take. Obviously, Jared Bowen, goodness me, with the header in this one. Miles Lewis Skelly, another red card on another landlubber for Lewis Skelly. Dogso, denial of a goal-scoring opportunity on the halfway line. Let's be fair, Graham. The eye patch, it affects his depth perception. It's hard to, get
the wooden leg.
in. And the peg leg, of course, which he led with that challenge. Arsenal need a striker, Graham. Who knew?
Yeah, all of Arsenal's nightmares came true in this match. Obviously, they have the injury problems with Havertz, Saka, Martinelli, Jesus. Am I missing one? I feel like there's another player in there that's injured at the moment. So obviously that was a factor in how toothless that they look in this game, and they're playing Wanyeri, who is this incredibly talented teenager, about 17 years old. You're asking him to be the spark to keep a title challenge alive. Feels a bit much. Then you have Leandro Trossard, who is good for a clutch goal every so often, but has always kind of struggled starting for Arsenal. Then you have Mikel Merino, who is a central midfielder, starting as a number 9, because in the last game against Leicester, he came off the bench and scored a couple goals. So it feels like Arsenal are grasping at straws with their attacking line at the moment, and that manifested itself in this performance. And of course, there was the red card to Miles Skelly, the Pirate himself, and red cards have been an issue for Arsenal this season as well. This was actually Miles Skelly's second red card in a month in the Premier League. He was sent off at Wolves. Arsenal have had 20 red cards. No, probably not. They've had 20 red cards under Mikel Arteta, which is more than any other Premier League team in that time. They have dropped, in the games they've been reduced to 10 men this season, they've dropped 10 points. That's the gap to Liverpool. So you can there's no guaranteeing that they would have won those games. I think one of those games was against Brighton, who are a good team, but they clearly have a better chance of winning those games if they have 11 men on the pitch. If they don't get those red cards, maybe they're a lot closer to Liverpool, and this title race is alive. So yeah, it's been a real issue for Arsenal this season, and this was a nightmare of a game for them.
Graham, off the top of your head, how many of those can you recall being like last man taking somebody down, even if it was marginal? Like, doesn't Gabriel have one of those in Saliba? Was that last season? I can't even remember anymore. But I feel like a number of them have been sort of, we lost the ball or we got caught out, and now we have to have a defender make a play, and it leads to a red card. That feels to be a theme, but I'm not sure if that's correct.
So, yeah, Saliba got one. The one that is in my mind is the Declan Rice one against Brighton, where he gets the second yellow for kicking the ball away, which is obviously foolish. There was a whole load of debate around that at the time. But it's a real weakness that, as I say, stretches back beyond this season for this Arsenal team. Discipline has been a problem. If they have 11 men on the pitch more often, maybe they're closer to the top of the table. They also came up against, to give West Ham credit, they also came up against a West Ham team that did a really good job of exposing Arsenal in this game. Their defensive fundamentals were really strong. They were getting bodies between the Arsenal attackers and their own goal. They were asking Arsenal to break them down, which obviously they couldn't do with the lack of attacking talent and firepower that they have on the pitch at the moment. And then on the attacking side, they were really brave on the ball, and they had good combinations in midfield to get out from the back, which is maybe the beginning of Potter ball starting to take root in this team, and they got bodies forward at speed. And one of those bodies was Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I'm going to do it, Taylor.
I know,
who was out? Dude, who was out?
Let's just make it a weekly segment. Can we just make it a weekly segment of player Manchester United should prematurely let go and is now playing really well? There are multiple nominees. There are multiple nominees this weekend, I should add.
Yeah.
There's multiple nominees every single weekend of players who have left Manchester United and are now thriving. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, West Ham have had a really bad season. He has been good all season. He's arguably been their player of the year. And it's his brilliant cross for the winner, which puts it on a plate for Bowen after he throws in a couple step-overs as well. He was so willing to get forward with his pace. He had a couple other really good deliveries. He's got some of the best attacking numbers of any fullback in the Premier League this season, which is funny because that was always the stick that was used to beat him when he was at Manchester United. Was good 1v1 defender, but gives you very little going forward. Well, That has not been the case for West Ham this season, and he was crucially important to them getting this win.
He was one that definitely felt like a mistake when they let him go. Meanwhile, Diogo Dalot is there just passing the ball to other players. But anyway, I thought this was an incredibly impressive performance from West Ham and from Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who has a moment in the 26th when he basically turns out of pressure, has a nice pass, continues his run, gets on the end of a ball, cuts it back for Jared Bowen, who shoots wide. And that felt like a sort of warning sign of what was to come, because it's a very similar moment in the 44th that leads to that goal. But it also is him taking on Ricardo Calafiore and kind of doing him up. It's a good little attacking play there from Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And it was an excellent team performance from West Ham, who got numbers behind the ball when they needed to and defended with their lives and put their bodies on the line and had so many different blocks, but then also attacked with intent, committed numbers in there. And I think a key part of that, to highlight him again, is Jared Bowen, who I thought was exceptional in this game, especially with his movement and how often he would just adjust his run at the very last second to almost get on the end of crosses or get on the end of crosses as the situation allowed. But I really did think his movement just kept causing problems for Arsenal, and it wasn't really a thing I think of with him, maybe to my own detriment, but was very impressed by him and the overall performance from West Ham for sure.
Yeah, very good credit to West Ham. But of course, if you are losing to this West Ham side, maybe you shouldn't be in the title race.
That's a fair point, maybe. Although there's so much talent there, it makes me wonder. This is my hot take that I had not thought about until this exact moment. But with some of the teams we're talking about, Arsenal having the injury issues they do and the lack of depth, Manchester City having very much a makeshift back line and makeshift attack, United having injury issues, Spurs having injury issues and depth issues. Is PSR working? Is that what we're seeing? Because it does feel like more than ever in the Premier League, with maybe Liverpool aside, anybody can beat anybody on the day. And and a lot of that is Villa improving, West Ham improving, everybody kind of spending a bit more money, being able to spend more money and upping their game. Newcastle certainly in that group too. It feels like it's the most open it's been. A lot of that is due to middle-tier clubs or whatever middle-table clubs spending more, but also the bigger clubs, it feels like feeling the purse strings tightening. There it is.
So there was a really interesting article in The Athletic about this where they looked at, I think it was 15 years ago, the way they worked this out, because it's a little bit confusing. Did we not have a question about this in Listener Questions recently where we were talking about whether the teams in the middle of the table, or Taylor, did we maybe do a 101? It was the Big Six episode we did for 101 where we spoke about this. Are the teams in the middle getting richer? And the answer is actually no, relative to the top of the league. So what's happening is basically, and The Athletic had an article where their methodology for this was they looked at the top 300 players in the world as they ranked them and what percentage of them played for that mid-tier in the Premier League. And 15 years ago it was something like 6%, and now it's 18% of those players play for the middle. So that's what is happening. Those teams are able to go around Europe and get better players, and they're now putting pressure on the teams above them. And I think it's the number one thing that is boosting the Premier League as the best team, the best league in the world, because you don't have that in La Liga or the Bundesliga or Serie A.
15 years ago, a Villa midfielder would hit a shot on frame, and City would be like, "Yeah, we'll have some of that. We'll buy him now." And now it's the other way around. It's kind of a strange world.
Yeah, Marble Halls ain't getting in that team anymore. Let's just say that. This game had one of my favourite moments of the weekend. David Raya going up for a corner when in the 98th minute or something like that. I love that when it happens in a league game for a start. But then we had the mad sprint back, and Raya absolutely destroyed everybody running back to collect the ball, which was very impressive because you don't expect a goalkeeper to do that. But not only was that fun, but both keepers wearing exactly the same colour and looking the same in the same box. I don't know why that was allowed. That felt like trouble. One of them could have punched it in and got away with it.
It's a Back to the Future situation. You can never meet your ancestor, or problems will arise.
There you go. Yeah. It's more like Street Fighter 2 when you used to be, when you played Guile had to fight against Guile, but they were both in the same colour. It was just too confusing.
Yours is better.
Let's go to Villa Park. Aston Villa 2, Chelsea 1. New signings coming up big for Villa. Let's go to the Man United players doing better elsewhere section. Marcus Rashford with a brace of assists here. Marco Asensio with the winning goal. What do we make of this one, Graham? Cole Palmer had a few chances to get Chelsea decently into this one, but it was Villa's day.
Yeah, so Chelsea actually started this game really well. I watched this game in full and live and thought Chelsea were onto something. So it was an interesting setup by Maresca, who had Reece James in central midfield. Obviously a right back by trade, but he was properly a central midfielder. It wasn't a case of him starting at right back and moving into midfield. He was just a midfielder. And you had Enzo Fernandez further forward, Pedro Neto as the number 9 through the middle, which was also interesting. I actually thought Reece James was pretty good in midfield because Villa were pressing high, and James is extremely press resistant, so he was good in those moments. Some nice combinations as well with Cole Palmer. Malo Gusto was getting down the right side as well. And then Pedro Neto, who I'm not Pedro Neto's biggest fan, to be honest. I think his output doesn't always match his kind of effort and energy. But this was probably the most effective I've seen him for a while, certainly in the first half, and it's his cross that creates the opening goal, and there were some other moments as well where he was able to drive at the Villa defence. But the moment that changed the game, and we're going back to this as well, former Manchester United players, was Marcus Rashford coming on for the second half. He didn't start this game, and watching him in the second half of this match, it was like watching the Marcus Rashford of old. He has been lively in his other games for Villa. There's been moments in the games he's played, but this was the first time where he's had genuine output and genuine productivity and final ball. For the first goal, he times his run really well to the back post, and then it gets a little touch from Malo Gusto. He adjusts his body really well, and then as he's falling, manages to get enough power on it to put it across goal for Asensio. That has to be like a 0.99 XG chance for Marco Asensio in that position. And then the second goal is obviously a mistake by Jorgensen, the Chelsea goalkeeper. But it's a really nice pick out by Rashford. He's not just smashing that cross into the middle, he's picking out Marco Asensio in the box. So his general performance was really positive. He's playing with intent again. He's making quick decisions. He's taking people on. He's releasing the ball at the right time. There was a chance for Daniel Malen in this game where he drives forward, plays this lovely little reverse ball in behind. I don't think the Manchester United Marcus Rashford does that. Mm-hmm. He would have held on to the ball and just dribbled into traffic, because we've seen that so many times before. So, just really, really pleased and really, really good to see him playing this way again, because I wasn't sure that we would ever see it.
I wasn't either. I didn't think we would. And so to see him come on in this game and be that same old Rashford, as you said, Graham, was really exciting to see, even as a Manchester United supporter, because I want him to do well, and he's a very good player, and it's cool to see him, I think, feeling himself again. And Unai Emery is not a manager I think of, or a coach I think of, as being like, just go have fun. But it does feel like some of the shackles are off, and he's just allowed to go out and sort of take people on and try stuff. And I think that pass you mentioned to Daniel Malen is so important in my mind, because there are a number of times when we saw Rashford in this game take people on and not come away with the ball. And I think if it had just been that over and over again, I would still feel like, it's kind of the same thing. He's just doing it more often with more energy. But he has that pass, he has a few cutbacks, he has a few shots, and it just felt like a Marcus Rashford who's enjoying things again, and a Villa team who are very much enjoying things against a Chelsea team who are not. This is another loss for Chelsea when they were ahead. I believe since Boxing Day they've had 5 games where they were winning, so that would have been 15 points. From those, they've taken 2 points, which are draws against Crystal Palace and Bournemouth. So they are struggling to see games out. They have plenty of injuries themselves, a lot of players coming back in March, a few players coming back in April, so we'll see how things look then. But for now, some things for Enzo Maresca to figure out. And Graham, just to put a point on it, you were way off with your .99 XG. It was .95. Thank you very much.
Should have done better.
Indeed. And he did.
Bravo.
Bravo, Graham. All right, more of a top-of-the-table clash between Newcastle and Nottingham Forest. What a time to be alive. Newcastle with a 4-3 win here. 4 goals in 12 minutes for Newcastle here in the first half. Alexander Isak scoring his 50th Premier League goal. Newcastle going level on points with Man City in 5th place. Forest still in 3rd, Graham. Wow.
Yeah, and this was a really strange game because Forest take the leads. Newcastle absolutely blitzed them with 4 goals in 11 minutes. One of those goals was the weirdest penalty I've seen in a good while. I don't know if you guys have seen this, where Isak sort of chips Matt Sells on the line, but it's also not a chip. It's a shot into the roof of the net, but Sells stays centrally and sort of just falls backwards into his goal. Not good goalkeeping. It was really, really weird. And when Newcastle were good in this match, they were brilliant. Isak was brilliant. Lewis Hall was brilliant getting forward from left back. I thought Joe Willock was outstanding in the first half with the way that he was driving forward, and he creates the 4th goal for Isak. But Forest had chances, really good ones as well. They hit the post. Alanga misses a bit of a sitter at the back post as well. They were a real threat from set pieces. Morello had a golden chance from a corner too. And then when it goes to 4-3 right at the end, Forest had their tails up, and Newcastle are kind of playing for territory and trying to run down the clock. And obviously the equaliser didn't come for Forest. So, but on the attacking side of things, I think Nuno will be pretty pleased with how much of a threat they posed. Defensively, that's becoming more of a worry for this team. They've conceded 13 goals in their last 4 league games, which is stark for a team that was so defensively strong for the first half of the season. It feels like teams are moving players higher on them, which Brighton tried to do in that 7-0 game where they got absolutely smashed. But other teams have managed to do it more effectively. And that's what Newcastle did with Isak, Murphy, Willock, Hall, Gordon, all really high, all driving it at Forest, trying to create those overloads. And Forest, they've lost 3 of their last 4. They're still 3rd in the table right now. It does kind of feel like they're at a crossroads in their season where they need to rediscover some of that defensive strength that they had for the first half of the season quickly. I think they've got, do they have Liverpool midweek? They've got a big game midweek that I can't quite remember, so that would be a good time for them to get back to winning ways.
Oh yeah, lest we forget a midweek round of fixtures coming, ladies and gents. Premier League coming thick and fast. Tottenham had a 4-1 win at Ipswich, a 3rd win in a row in the league for Tottenham, who are 12th now. The BBC's headline, has Postecoglou turned the corner with re-energised Spurs, Graham? They didn't put Graham in their headline. That was me addressing you. Is this turning a corner, or is this playing Ipswich and a bad Man United side and Brentford?
That one.
Yeah, that one, and also a lot of previously injured players coming back into the team, which Postecoglou kept on saying that would make a difference, and shock it has. I mean, look, I'm maybe being a little bit reductive there, because Spurs, they've won 3 games in a row in the league. That's the first time they've done that all season. You can see they're playing with a little bit more confidence. They've got City midweek in the Premier League this week, so even though City aren't the force of old, that will be a test of where this Tottenham team is. And individually, you're starting to see some players round into form. So 2 players stood out for me in this game. One was Lucas Bergvall, who is a serious talent. He's 19 years old. I think he's sort of flown under the radar this season because Spurs have been so bad. But even in those bad moments, you've been able to see his potential. He had a really good game here. He's the sort of two-way central midfielder that Ange Ball, I think, requires to work. He's really good at driving the ball forward. He can dribble past a man. He carries the ball like 15, 20 yards at a time, which is really important to get Spurs forward. And then the second player who stood out was Son, who was back to his best. He's had a really rough season so far, but his decision making in this game was really good once Spurs were moving the ball into attack at speed. He set up Brennan Johnson, I think, for his 2 goals actually. The first one with this excellent cross across the box, and then the second one he sets up Johnson as well. So just fun to see Spurs playing well in the final third, and for once kind of holding it together at the back, which is kind of the question for this team. It has been all season.
Graham, my working theory on why Bergvall has flown under the radar is because commentators think he's 2 different people, because half the commentators call him Bergvall and half the commentators call him Berryvall, which I'm guessing is the actual pronunciation. Ooh. I would love for someone in the Discord to let me know, and I'm sure they will. Graham, for you, that midweek game against City, if you had to guess, how's that one going to play out?
The chaos is what I'm predicting. I don't know. I kind of fancy Spurs. Like Spurs, their issue has been, well, recently it's been intensity and obviously squad depth. And they've got their squad depth back. And watching their last few performances, they have their intensity back as well. So I look at City and I find their issues harder to explain and harder to work out what the solution is. So I might go with Spurs. And if they were to beat City and it's 4 in a row, then yeah, they really are starting to turn the corner this season.
Agreed.
Wow. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Tottenham hosting Man City on Wednesday. I feel like they've played each other about 10 times already this season, but maybe that's my terrible memory playing tricks on me. Speaking of terrible, Leicester 0, Brentford 4. Leicester are the first team in English top-flight history to lose 6 home games in a row without scoring a single goal. Ruh-roh, not looking good for Leicester. And last, and possibly least from the Premier League roundup, Everton 2, Man United 2. Another game, another poor Manchester United performance here. Taylor, effectively Man United rescued by a VAR decision against Everton, against Ashley Young late on in this game. A penalty not given because because Ashley Young.
Pretty much.
Well, that is pretty much it, really. Like, it's a classic Ashley Young where he just throws his legs. I've seen that a million times before. I know there's been a lot of hand-wringing. Sorry to jump in here, Taylor. I know there's been a lot of hand-wringing.
You are
over that
welcome
penalty.
to jump in.
I know there's been a lot of debate about that penalty. I have no issue with that not being a penalty. Like, there is a little bit of a tug from De Ligt, but Ashley Young just throws himself to the ground. So morally, I just think, no penalty is probably the correct call.
It does feel like one, like I think the match of the day guys were saying, like, there's a shirt pull. Like, that shouldn't go to VAR. I have to believe if it's a different player, they are much more emphatic about how much of an injustice that was. I would also point out that Andre Onana maybe doesn't need to spill the ball right directly back at a player, and maybe that would have changed some things as well. Another poor performance of Manchester United, who looked horrific for the first 75 minutes or so, and then decided, oh, right, we need to do something. But Everton, by contrast, have looked like a very strong team who are like pulling in the same direction and believe in themselves, and I think deserved the win on the day. Manchester United able to get the draw, so I guess that's a credit to them. But I think it's noteworthy that Everton are ahead of Manchester United in the table, and I think deserve to be right now.
Yeah, Taylor, was the part of the game where Manchester United were better and showed a little bit more attacking intent, was that when Alejandro Garnacho was brought on to the pitch off the bench?
You might be working with something there, yeah?
Yeah, funny that. Yes, it was.
He's going to be so good for West Ham next season. I can't wait.
Garnacho is very much an imperfect player, but the only time I ever see Manchester United play with any kind of attacking intent is when he's on the pitch. So it's baffling to me that he doesn't start every single game.
Weirdly, the other one that I think was important was Lenny Yoro coming on, who only does, I think, because Mazraoui gets injured. But I think he is a very solid defender. He just looks very composed when he is 1v1, but also defending as a unit. And then I think is good in distribution and good on the ball. So I think that helped. But yes, Garnacho coming on and doing actual things with the ball as opposed to Rasmus Højlund kind of standing up top and waving, I think maybe helped some things a little bit.
Harry Maguire waving like a headless chicken when he was
out of
position for that 2-0 goal as well.
His defending in this game. I mean, I feel bad that we're focusing on Manchester United because actually Everton, the difference in them since David Moyes has taken over has been incredible. And I expected they would be more attack minded, and they're doing so much more to get in behind opponents. And Beto has been the perfect fit for that approach, where he wants to play on the shoulder of the last defender, and they're playing balls from deep for him to get in behind. But there are other things about Everton that have been I haven't expected. Like, they're pressing high, and doing it really well. Like, there's a structure in the first half to them, and they're forcing Man United to play it from the back and coughing up the ball. So Everton, I think they kind of deserve to win this match on the whole. Actually, very impressed with them. Harry Maguire and some of the defensive moments and duels in this game. What was going on? Like, honestly, it was embarrassing. It was comical at times to watch Harry Maguire flail around in that penalty box.
It begs the question, was he just trying to defend in that bar in Mykonos, and maybe people just took it as an assault and drunken behavior, when in reality he was just trying to defend and couldn't put it together? To end on a positive for Everton, another one who I think we've seen a response from is Abdoulaye Doucouré, who I think when he is on his game on his day and kind of fighting for a result is like so difficult to play in so many different ways. But for his goal, he drops in and helps play out of the Manchester United press, such as it was. But he is maybe 25 yards from his own goal when he receives the ball, lays it off, and then turns and kind of continues his run up the pitch. And then he's there for the rebound to head in. It's a 80-yard run that he continues on, and a lot of defenders don't move with him. I think that he gets a goal and assist was deserved, because I thought he was excellent this weekend.
There we go. Ruben Amorim, by the way, 15 points from 15 Premier League games. Kind of relegation form there. Maybe for the next manager, they should look to the Everton guy currently. He's doing
who now has more points than Amorim since he came into Everton in like half the matches or something. But it was a very nice hoodie that Ruben Amorim was wearing for this match. So you win some, you lose most of them.
Lose many.
Yeah, that's how that saying goes.
There you go.
For the many of you keeping track at home, we've reached the part in the episode where I don't want to be here anymore.
There you go. I've got one more for you, Taylor.
Please.
In the 90s, you've probably got this on 7-inch vinyl. Liverpool had a song, Pass and Move, That's a Liverpool Groove. Do you remember that? Pass and Move, the Boot Room Boys, Pass and Move, That's a Liverpool Groove.
Not one tiny bit, but I'm excited to listen to it after we record.
Go check it out. It's a good little tune. But Pass and Move is a Liverpool groove. I've got a little update. Man United should release a single, Poor and Passive. That's the Man United Massive. What do you think? I'm working on it.
You should record it.
Yeah.
But can it be, to reflect the move, can it be sung sadly? Can it be a morose like football song instead of a chipper anthem? It's like, Yeah, porn.
We're putting it in a minor key. There we go. All right, we'll take one more quick break. When we come back, we're going around the continent. We're taking a look at MLS and much more. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to the weekend review. A quick look in Germany, where Bayern Munich had a 4-0 win over Eintracht Frankfurt. Third place, Eintracht Frankfurt, no less. Opening an 8-point lead over Leverkusen, did Bayern with this one. Harry Kane came on in the second half after recovering from a calf injury. 10 goals between Bayern and Dortmund. Dortmund with a 6-0 win over Union Berlin. Cyril Girassi with a poker. 4 goals, a poker, as we call it. Pascal Gross with 4 assists in that one as well. Dortmund still down in 10th place, but positive stuff clearly happening under Niko Kovac, it seems.
Giorena played. Sound the klaxon. He was in there. He did things. It counts.
Did he get any? Did he get 4 assists?
Got a yellow card.
Hey, that's something. Load it down. And Leverkusen with a 2-0 win at Holstein Kiel. John Tolkien's Holstein Kiel. He was sidelined. He did not play for this one, however. Let's go to Serie A. Torino 2, Milan 1. Oh boy, Graham, the opening Torino goal, Mike Mignon clearing the ball into his own defender. Christian Pulisic missing a penalty in this one. Doesn't seem like a lot went right here.
Yeah, nothing is working for Milan at the moment, who are now 8 points off 4th place in Serie A. So I think this result could be looked back upon as a real season-defining moment for them. Can they bridge an 8-point gap the way they're playing right now? Seems very unlikely. And this resulting performance is just going to heap more pressure on Conceição, who is already in this spiral, despite him taking over just like a month ago or something like that. He's already in this spiral where it's kind of difficult to envisage him surviving. They're not playing well. Results are bad. There's all this speculation about players not really getting on with him. One of whom is obviously Christian Pulisic. Fofana is another one. What I will say is that while I do have concerns about some of his decisions that he's making, particularly his use of João Felix and how that's having a knock-on impact for Pulisic, who is absolutely in the worst form of the season so far right now in terms of his individual form. But what I will say is Conceição can't really do much about the errors that Milan are making in pretty much every match they're playing at the moment. The first goal, as you mentioned, Ryan, is this comical mix-up between Militao and Mignon. Militao, by the way, has that's his second own goal of the season. The other one was also against Torino on the opening weekend of the season. So he's scored 2 goals for Torino this season, which I think makes him their 7th top scorer in Serie A this year.
Are you suggesting a Lucas Paquetá-style arrangement here, Graham?
No, not at all.
Okay, good. No,
but and then the second Torino goal, Milan completely switch off from a free kick, and Torino are in behind. So, yeah, I think there are some issues with this Milan team setup. I think their midfield in particular is not set up to progress the ball well enough. So I'm not saying Conceição is blameless, but some of the players need to start taking responsibility because this is becoming pretty toxic for this team.
But Graham, João Felix did hit the post and have 15 completed passes, so that was worth it.
Yeah, sure. It was, yeah. Honestly, João Felix is like an abstract concept to me, and I presume everyone else at this point. Clearly, he has talent, and when you watch Milan at the moment, he's the one in central positions getting on the ball, and he might beat a man, and he'll get a shot away, he'll force a save, but he never seems to score or never seems to actually affect the game in any like meaningful way. And so I just think sidelining Pulisic, who was this proven match winner and difference maker for this team, I don't really get what the pro of that decision is. Yeah. So that one is on Conceição.
Quote of the weekend, by the way, on João Felix, Italian journalist Fabio Ravazzani, he is as handsome as he is useless. João Felix.
Wow.
That is Ryan Bailey levels of journalism right there. I appreciate that.
That is.
Very impressive. Very good stuff. Well done, Italy.
Does that mean if he gets uglier, does he get better? Is that what we're saying?
No, he needs to get more handsome.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. All right. That's where I'm at. Into 1, Genoa 0. Lautaro is getting a goal there, of course, that put Inter top on Saturday. They stayed top on Sunday because Napoli, the previous leaders, they lost 2-1 away at Como on Sunday. A massive win for Como. This took them 6 points clear of the relegation zone. This year, the Napoli have been top for 7 weeks. They are no longer top. It's back to being Inter, the defending champions, of course. And if you like own goals, Como's opening goal was a hilarious back pass from Napoli's Amir Ramani straight back into his own net. Wonderful. Time to be alive. Great. Looked like a good atmosphere at Como, actually, from the broadcast as well. So things going better for Como and their their plans to stay up this season, shall we say. Let's go to Spain, shall we? Real Madrid 2, Girona 0. Luka Modric with an all-timer. Goodness me, Graham, what a goal that was from Luka Modric. He was wonderful here.
Yeah, if listeners haven't seen the Modric banger from this game, make sure you do, because it's one of the goals of the season. I think it's a set piece that's clear to the edge of the box. He takes it down on his chest and then unleashes this looping volley into the top corner. He might be 39 years old. He maybe doesn't play 90 minutes in every single game anymore for Real Madrid, but he's still the GOAT. Real Madrid, in terms of their overall performance here, generally quite flat. Obviously, no Jude Bellingham for this one. He is suspended due to his potty mouth and was actually given an extra match suspension by La Liga as well to really rub that one in after they protested so much after
Is it
that
because
game.
he told them to do one once they gave him the original suspension?
And then made the same protest again. Yeah. I wasn't telling you to F off. But he won't be back for another week. And Real Madrid in this game, pretty flat, which maybe isn't too surprising considering how much they put into the match against Man City during the week. But the way that Girona play, they want to get high up the pitch and actually have the ball, and so there was still space for Real Madrid on the break. So there was always this sense that they would find an opening at some point. And they did. And ultimately, Mbappe and Vinicius, they had some really good moments. Even if it wasn't a sustained performance from Real Madrid, they were quite clearly the stronger team.
Have you seen the compilation? It's only like 4 or 5 clips, I think, of Bellingham yelling at people as he's going to close them down. It seems like he does just curse a lot, but it's him basically like when he goes to close somebody down and they pass the ball back, he will yell at them for passing the ball back in I think a sort of lighthearted way, but definitely gets picked up screaming curses at other players.
So that's something from like pickup soccer.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
There's a guy I play fives with, and he will do that at least 3 times a game, where he'll just shout "Yabba dabba doo" as you're like going to shoot or whatever. Like that seems to be Jude Bellingham's thing.
That I don't love. I definitely, if I'm playing somebody who I know and they I'm with them 1v1 and they pass the ball back, I will definitely call them a coward. Like that type of thing. I think is what he's doing. Only his involves.
I'm still getting over it, Taylor,
wanker.
from when you did that to me in New York.
True. That's true. I apologize.
Yabba dabba do as well. That's quite an exclamation. Yeah. So many syllables.
Ryan, we can just go ahead and agree on a side conversation that Graham's talking about himself in the third person, right?
Absolutely so.
Yeah. Some guy that I play with, yeah. Mm-hmm,
yeah, that's the bedrock of his game. Flintstones
reference.
Let's go to Las Palmas. By the way, Real Madrid are even on points with Barcelona. Both got 54 points. With Barcelona are top because they got a 2-0 win at Las Palmas, which is, for context, the Canary Islands, Gran Canaria, which is off the west coast of Africa. It is a very long away day for Spanish teams, nearly a 4-hour flight from Barcelona.
Are you getting paid by them? What's happening? You getting paid by the Gran Canary?
And by the way, visit Gran Canaria.
Yeah, right.
I went there for soccer purposes 2 years ago. It's cool. It's a nice place. Winter sun, good for winter sun. But they're not good for beating Barcelona because Barcelona, Graham, got the 2-0 win.
Not good for beating Barcelona, clearly, as they lost this match. They did beat Barcelona earlier in the season, we should mention, but this was a really competitive game where Las Palmas had opportunities. Chesney had to make a number of saves, and Las Palmas, they had this really physical threat and attack through Ollie McBurney. Still can't believe I'm actually saying that sentence. It's Ollie McBurney giving Barcelona trouble, and Sandro Ramirez, who of course is a former Barcelona player. And that put Barcelona under pressure at times. So they certainly didn't have it all their own way. There was a penalty decision that was marginal in this match that could have made it 1-1 if Las Palmas had converted it. Wasn't given in the end. Lamine Yamal, though, I know we seem to talk about him in every single episode that we do, but it is justified because he is a complete joke of a player. He's still 17 years old. Everything that he does is just so precise, and his assist for the opening goal, yes, it's great feat by Olmo inside the box, and the finish off the underside of the bar wasn't bad either, but the little reverse pass from Lamine Yamal that breaks open the Las Palmas defence after he's beaten a couple players coming off the right side, he is just a ridiculous player. There was another moment in this game where he tried a dribble, got tackled, then sprints back 20 yards to take the ball off the player that's just tackled him, comes back again, beats a couple players, sends it to the back post for Lewandowski, and his header is saved. He is absolutely unreal, and I think he is the best young player that we have seen since Lionel Messi, and he shows it on every game for Barcelona on a regular basis.
Yeah, he was obviously inspired by those beautiful Gran Canarian vistas, the volcanic beaches. Come to the Canary Islands. Valencia 0, Atletico Madrid 3. Atleti were top for a little while on the Saturday. Julian Alvarez with a brace in that one. Athletic Bilbao, a 7-1 win over Valladolid in this match week as well. Very impressive stuff from then. And one more Spanish game to mention, Betis with a 2-1 win at Getafe. Johnny Cardoso's Betis, as we shall call them. Both teams went down to 10 men in this one. Isco with a brace. Anthony with the assist for Isco's non-penalty goal in this one.
Such a good assist as well.
Yeah.
Where he picks it up deep, he beats a couple men, drops a shoulder, then plays this excellent pass into Isco, who finishes it off. But he then got sent off with a ridiculous tackle late on. I think it's in stoppage time. Absolutely no need for it whatsoever. The opposition player is heading away from goal, heading towards their own goal, and he puts in this like wild slide tackle and gets sent off. So
yeah.
The Manchester United Anthony, I guess, is still in there
That's
somewhere.
what I was going to say. Yeah, that's the part when he remembered he was still on loan. He was like, oh, right, I got to play bad. And then...
Yeah, there you go. I watched a Spanish language commentary clip of that, and the commentators went, "Oh no, when he did the foul." So you know it was bad when he did that. All right, one final section to get to: the glorious return of Joe Lowry's MLS Corner, featuring Taylor and Graham. We have a full MLS episode coming to the feed on Tuesday, but a quick roundup of MLS and loads of goals on opening day. Whew. Taylor, where do we want to start? How about we start in Miami with a 2-2 draw against NYC FC. Quite an exciting one. There was a dinked finish for 2-2, which I was watching the screen from across the room, and I was like, oh, classic Messi finish. Oh, it's not Messi, but it was a classic Messi finish.
It was a classic Messi finish. It was a very good performance, I think, from Lionel Messi. I don't think it was a particularly strong performance from either team. Like, broadly speaking, a lot of individual mistakes, especially from Miami, who had a very strange game. They get the goal early, then there's the Fafa Pico injury, then there's the Thomas Avila's red card, who, in my preview last season, I said I thought he would be sent off at least once in the season because he can dive in and because he is the defender in the back line who they maybe are going to rely on for speed. If he dives in the wrong situation, he might get a red. He did last season. He's already done it this season. So he puts Miami down to 10, and I think it's a credit to them that they end up getting the point. But they are sort of slack for the defending on that one. They are very slack for the set-piece defending that leads to a wide-open shot when they just assume Maxi Morales is going to shoot, and instead he passes it to Ilinic, who is wide open, takes a good first touch, finishes with the second. And then Jordi Alba basically gives NYCFC their second goal. He passes it to... I cannot figure out what he is doing. I've watched this a bunch of different times. There are Miami players in the vicinity of where he plays the ball, but it looks for all the world like he thought he was wearing sky blue for a couple minutes there. But then they get back into it, and I think NYCFC really, at the end of the day, kind of let them back in. I think there were moments when they could have killed the game off. There are moments when they could have recycled possession and just put their foot on the ball, slowed things down. They have a shooting opportunity at the very end of the game that did not need to be struck when it was, and it goes wide. It's not the best opportunity for Fernandez, but it's still one that if he takes another touch, if he maybe has a little bit more control, or even just dribbles to the corner flag, I think they end up getting the result. But then Miami go the other way, and it is very much Lionel Messi creating something from nothing, but it's very much also New York defenders being terrified of Lionel Messi dribbling at them, and it's diffusion of responsibility. I think there are 5 around him. Nobody makes a play on him, and he's able to find the pass and help facilitate the goal. So credit to Miami for getting the draw on the road, or not on the road, excuse me. It felt like they were on the road in moments. But they get the draw despite being a man down for most of this game. So that is a credit to them. But this was a very much knocking the rust off sort of performance from both teams, in my opinion.
Absolutely. San Diego on the road. Perfect start to life in MLS for them. A 2-0 win at LA Galaxy on Sunday. That crest inspired by the roof of Atlanta Stadium doing wonders for them so far, Taylor.
Indeed, Ryan. I thought this was a superb game from San Diego, who I was sort of uncertain what we were going to see from them. It felt like it might be like an okay expansion season, and if we're going with week 1 overreactions, I thought they were comprehensively good. I thought they moved the ball really well. I thought they pressed as a unit pretty consistently, and both of their goals, I mean, one is certainly a mistake from the Galaxy. It's a for people who haven't seen it, it's a short pass basically drilled at a defender who can't control it, and then San Diego pounce and score from it. Credit to Dreyer for getting the opening goal for San Diego ever. But the second goal is a blistering counterattack. It's Dreyer hitting an inch-perfect ball from 60 yards, then continuing his run to get on the end of the reverse pass to score the goal. San Diego looked up for it, looked like a team that are already playing as a unit, and I thought were very strong on the day. I will mention this to Joe tomorrow because I'm curious if he has thoughts on it. But my other week one overreaction is that if I'm a Galaxy supporter, I am a little bit worried because in my preview, I talked about how they weren't going to have Paintsel to start the season. Obviously, they weren't going to have Puig, but they lost Joveljic. They lost some midfield options. They lost some depth options. And it felt like if they can weather that, if they can still find ways to attack and look like a kind of solidified team, they'll be fine. This was what happens when they don't, and it felt like they didn't really have a ton of final third creativity. They played through San Diego's press a number of times, and I have in my notes, like, wow, this Galaxy team can play, they can move the ball, they are very press resistant, but once they get into the final third, they really weren't creating much, and I think having or not being able to rely on some of those key names is a problem that they will have to figure out in short order. But to see the chickens come home to roost, essentially, for the Galaxy in week one, I'm sure they will right the ship. I'm sure they will be just fine this season. But it definitely lowered my expectations a little bit for the Galaxy.
Okay. Columbus with a big 4-2 win over Chicago. 6 goals in Columbus this weekend, Graham.
Yeah.
Fun game here.
Yeah, we highlighted this one as the Sickles pick from opening weekend in our previews last week, and it lived up to the billing. 4 goals in the first 37 minutes. Nancy ball versus Berhalter ball. Some of the play from both teams was just so exciting to watch. I had such a good time watching this game, particularly in the first half. So quick, so many risks taken by both teams, one of which cost Chicago a goal, playing out from the back, which is probably going to happen again over the course of the season as this team gets used to playing a very different way. I feel pretty good about my Brian Gutierrez tip that he's going to have a big year. I think, Taylor, you were on that.
I don't recall that, Graham. I remember me saying that. I don't think you ever did, and there's no official record of it still in your face.
Thanks, Athletic, for not publishing our tips ahead of this season starting. Anyway, I didn't say that. He scores the first 2 goals for the Fire, and his understanding with Jonathan Bamba, who, by the way, he looks really exciting as well for this team. That partnership between the two of them, where Gutierrez is in the middle and Bamba's on the left, that's something for the Fire to build around. That looks like a high quality attacking partnership. But the Columbus Crew are still the Columbus Crew. And in my preview of them, I previewed them for the show last week, I said that they would need Russell Rowe and Diego Rossi to step up in the attack if they were to maintain the same standards. First game of the season, 1 goal for Jason Russell Rowe, 2 for Diego Rossi. So there you go.
There you go, indeed. Plenty of games to talk about, of course. We'll be doing so on Tuesday's episode, but one more just to highlight real quick, Graham. Atlanta 3, Montreal 2. Loads of goals at the stadium inspired by San Diego's crest.
If you say so, Brandon.
I won't let go of that one.
I made a point of watching Atlanta on opening weekend because I just really wanted to see the impact that their new signings, not the Montreal impact, the impact that the Atlanta signings would make. I thought it was uneven performance that they produced on the whole, and CF Montreal scoring twice isn't ideal when they are probably quite a weak team in the grand scheme of things this season. But seeing Latte Lath stretch his legs and use that pace, and his first goal in this game is a great leap to head from a corner kick. I have to admit, I don't watch a huge amount of English Championship football, so I was surprised by that. He's got jets in his boots apparently, which is something Joseph Martinez used to have. Quite a small dude, but used to have a big leap on him. So Latte Lath seems to have a similar quality. And then seeing Miguel Almiron doing bits for Atlanta again and carrying the ball, and I think it's clear that he's going to be the creator for this Atlanta team. Was maybe more of a finisher for this team in his first spell, but now he just looks much more mature and, I don't know, like composed and calm when it comes to making the pass. He's able to slow himself down a little bit. I think that's the difference between Almiron 1.0 and Almiron 2.0 for this team. So, yeah, I can't wait to watch more of this Atlanta team because it wasn't a complete performance by any stretch, but you can see the potential that they have.
And Graham, since I've already sung my praises about my Liverpool prediction in November, I'll also say you and Joe picked Columbus, Chicago as your sort of sickos pick. I went with St. Louis, Colorado, and that was a 0-0 game where St. Louis had, I believe, 17 shots. Colorado had 2. St. Louis probably should have won, but did not take their chances. But not a lot of goals, not a lot to talk about from that one, so my bad.
Well, hang on, that does make it the sickos pick then, doesn't it?
I suppose it does.
And around
you're right. Never mind.
Yeah.
I take it back. I win.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe a sickos pick ended up being the opening game of the season, by the way, LAFC with a 1-0 win over Minnesota. Maybe we won't spend too much time on that one, but I did love the tifo that the LAFC fans had. Fans had for the LAFD LAFC for LAFD. That was very good indeed. All right, that is it for Weekend Review. If you want some more, Weekend Review Extra will be on our bonus feed, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. If you would like to follow us there, please and thank you. But for now, Taylor Rockwell, thank you very much indeed, sir.
Thank you very much indeed, sir, my friend.
Graham Rumpton, pleasure as always.
Thank you, Ryan Bailey.
And listener, thank you very much for joining us via this medium. We'll be back on the feed very shortly. But for now, bye.